business school. And I dropped out and got a job at Warner Communications. And I was hugely, hugely successful in my early days. And however, I also got burnt out by corporate politics. So I went into the university environment thinking somewhat naively that there would be no politics in universities. I was wrong. There is a lot of politics in university. And after a few years of that, I was kind of I felt that I was stagnating. All my friends and colleagues had passed me by because they remained in the corporate arena and they progressed and got promoted. And I had financial needs. And at the same time, I wasn't feeling very fulfilled in my work. So I was kind of feeling really sorry for myself. So I'd always been doing a lot of reading. Spiritual biography, mystical autobiography would take me to a nice place, and I came back to the real world and it sucked. And I remember thinking, if all of this is useful only when you're sitting quietly thinking peaceful thoughts, then it's actually quite useless. But somehow I knew it wasn't true. I knew it was very valuable. In fact, maybe it was the only thing that was valuable. I just hadn't figured out how to make use of it. So one day I got my bright idea, which is, why don't I take the teachings of the world's great masters, strip them of religious connotations, and adapt them so that they're acceptable to intelligent people in a post-industrial society. And the thought of doing that made me come alive. I needed that course for me, forget about anybody else. So I created that course, it did well, I modified it and offered it again, it did better. I moved it to Columbia Business School, and after a year, it exploded. It was the only course at Columbia which was a university-wide draw. And then it spread by word of mouth. I've taught it at London Business School. I've taught it at Kellogg. I've taught it at Berkeley. I've taught it at Imperial College. And now I teach it privately in New York, London, and San Francisco. So Creativity and Personal Mastery is both a program. It began as a business school course, remember, but it has evolved considerably since then. And it also is an intense experience. And it is designed to fundamentally transform your life. And I can state to you without any hesitation that if you take the program and if you do the exercises conscientiously, your life will change. No ifs, ands, or buts. You do the exercises conscientiously, your life will change. In fact, it'll be transformed. Now, what do I mean by life will be transformed? A bunch of things. First of all, most of us live lives of quiet desperation, as Thoreau put it so well. We are happy, we're successful. At least most of the people who come to my program are both happy and successful. At least if you met them in a cocktail party and you ask them, are you happy? Yes. And they're obvious, they'll say yes, and obviously they are successful. But underneath the life, there's always an undercurrent of tension, a feeling that time is slipping by, an inability to find joy in our day-to-day existence. So all of these things are something that you realize very strongly as you go through the course, because the simple joy has left our life. So you'll find joy creeping into your life. You'll find you're comfortable with ambiguity. You'll find that you can accomplish much more than you ever dreamed possible. You'll discover a sense of meaning and purpose in your life. And in general, you'll find that your experience of life is better on ever so many different dimensions. That's what I mean when I say that your life will be transformed. Now, I have a couple of questions. Let's see. Okay. So there are two formats for CPM. One is the online version. And in the online version, basically what happens is I will introduce the concepts to you, and I'll introduce the concepts to you in a series of short videos. And thereafter, there are exercises that you will do, and these are both individual and they are group exercises. And Elizabeth, who has been working with me for some years now and is really a super, super exponent, will be your guide, and she will actually take you through those and chivi you in. There are both individual and group exercises. And you will actually be seeing and talking to the other members in your cohort exactly as we are talking right now. In the live program, what happens is we physically get together in 3 modules. In each module, we begin on day 1 at dinner, go through day 2, and we end day 3 approximately 3 p.m. They are frequently on the weekend, which means that we'll begin Friday dinner, go through Saturday, and end Sunday around 3 p.m. There are 3 such modules, and these modules are separated by 4 to 6 weeks. And in between, you have both individual and group exercises. The material is very similar. We cover a little bit more material in the live program, but there is an intensity of the live experience, which is when everybody is together in the same room at the same time. It generates an energy which cannot be described. You have to feel it to know how powerful it is. But bonding happens both in the online program and in the live program. The material is very, very, very similar, except that there's more material in the live program, obviously. But both are very powerful programs. The online program, basically, many people use the online program as a springboard to the live program. In other words, they do the online program and then say, gee, that was wonderful. Let me do the live program to go deeper. And others take the online program because of geographical considerations and cost considerations and time considerations. So whichever one you take, you get to decide which one is right for you. And I'll be very happy to answer any and all questions that you have. So let's see, we have some questions in the Q&A box. How close are we going to be working with you, Dr. Rao, and how close with Elizabeth and Davide? And the short answer is you'll be working with both. You'll be interacting with me because you will get my videos. And if you want to ask questions, you can email me. I'll also be conducting live webinars where you can ask your questions. And if there is anything that you need and you feel that you need to speak to me, approach Elizabeth and she'll be very happy to set it up. A lot of the questions you have, though, probably Elizabeth and Davide can help you with. But yes, you will have access to me on both programs. And the live programs I'll be conducting entirely.
Yeah. I think this is worth actually making it very clear that the live program, you are conducting it entirely yourself.
Yes. So let's just make all the attendees aware that some of the people here on the webinar are interested in taking the online course, and some of them are interested in taking the in-person course. So on the in-person course, you spend 3 whole weekends in a conference center with Professor Rao and with either Davide or me. And you get lots of time to talk about anything and everything with both of us. If you take the online program, you have total access to me whenever you want. And Professor Rao will conduct 5 webinars where you can ask him questions. And if you have something particular in between the webinars that you'd like to email him about or talk to him about, he often makes himself available for that as well.
All right, now we have another question on, do you find the course transforms people most in their personal or business life? That is an excellent question. And the short answer is it depends upon the person. Transformation happens in both parts of your life. I basically would encourage you to stop thinking of your life as this is my personal life or this is my business life. I'd simply like you to think in terms of this is my life. And one or more dimensions of it may or may not be working. If they're not working, then your life isn't working. So I've had persons tell me, Professor Rao, my son tells me that he doesn't recognize me anymore. So I am the new X. And I never want to go back to the old one. In fact, she signed herself, I am the new X. So it varies, but the change spills over, and you cannot say this affected my personal life or my business life. It spills over into both dimensions. The dates for the online program, it begins on July 15th. The times and the dates the groups meet are not assigned because basically once you make up the groups, then the group members decide when they're going to be meeting. And that's the reason we haven't put down any dates, times for the group meetings. And as for the dates for the live program in 2019, they should be coming up very shortly. Now, there's another question, and what do I do when I'm not conducting workshops? When I'm not conducting workshops, I actually conduct a whole bunch of shorter workshops. I give public talks. I write books. I am actually working on 2 books right now. And I do a lot of reading. And I spend a lot of time thinking about what I can do to actually improve the programs.
Shiv-Kumar, I have some questions that people sent me that cannot attend the webinar and ask me if I can ask them.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. You can see the questions that the attendees are sending, so okay. I can't see them.
But all right. Well, another question is: can you tell more about the reunion for those who have graduated from the program? We actually call this the CPM Alumni Retreat. And we have so far been holding it every year. Last year, it was in London. This year, it's going to be in the Bay Area. Next year, it's probably going to be in the New York region. And the year after that, it'll probably go back to Europe, possibly in the London region. Essentially, what happens is this is a retreat where persons come from all over the world. These are people who have taken the program and they want to get back in that. There are various sessions. I conduct exercises exactly as you're going to experience in either the online or the live ones. And in addition, you have a chance to meet CPM alums from all over the world. There have been, to my knowledge, approximately 24 life partnerships formed as a result of people meeting in CPM. In addition to that, there are several dozen couples who have taken CPM, either simultaneously or one after the other. There have been dozens of business partnerships, friendships, and so on formed. In fact, I don't even know the dimensions of all of the meetings that have happened as a result of persons having taken CPM and then met up. I just learned recently, for example, somebody was traveling in Southeast Asia, just put up a notice on the board, hey, is there anyone? And she met someone who said, hey, come stay with me. And then, they went off and did stuff. And I think so, a business something also resulted thereafter. Does the course help people refine, tweak, better focus their goals? Absolutely. It's quite common for persons to start off saying, this is what I thought I wanted, and then they realize this is not what I wanted at all, and they completely change the direction in which they were going. There were others who said, well, I really don't know what I want to be doing, and they found that they got a sharper focus and a much clearer sense of what they should be doing right there as a result of taking the program. I can't say what will happen with you, but I can say that you will find that you are more well equipped to cope with life going forward than you were before. And one of the things this does, by the way, is it makes you comfortable with ambiguity. You know, we're all control freaks. We want to know what's going to happen tomorrow, what's going to happen next week. Am I going to get that promotion? Will I get a raise? Can I make enough money to buy that house? And the short answer is you'll never know. And we are extremely upset because we don't know. After you do CPM, you still won't know. As someone said, and this was someone who took it at London Business School, when I started CPM, I was completely stressed out. I had no knowledge of what kind of job I would get, which industry I would be working in, and it was driving me bananas. Now I've taken CPM. I still don't know what industry I'm working in. I don't know what job I'm going to take, but you know what? It's fine. Whatever happens, I have immense confidence in my ability to deal with it. That's what you'll get. Not so much you know what's going to happen, but you are immensely confident that no matter what happens, you will deal with it appropriately.
Shiv-Kumar, there's a question that I think makes sense to introduce here now. But yeah. Before I do that, I also want to tell the story of one of our alumni that when she started the course, she hated her job and she hated herself in the workplace. And by the time she had finished the course, she was really passionate about her job. She had changed completely all the dynamics inside her workplace, and her colleagues came and took the course as well because they were so impressed by the change. And so I wanted to tell this story to introduce the question that I have here, which is how scary is the transformation that takes place through CPM?
The example you gave, Davide, multiplied by 100 or more, because I have had dozens of students and participants in the course who said essentially the same thing. They felt they were in a rut, they felt they were bored, they felt they didn't want to be where they were, and after taking CPM, they realized, I am exactly where I need to be, and it is a blast. I've had persons go from, I can't bear the thought of going to work, to I jump up with joy at the thought of going to work. And it's the same job that they were in. Their internal attitude transformed, and it made such a palpable difference. In fact, there's one case, Davide knows about this, where someone was so transformed by taking the program that many of her colleagues are now in various stages of taking the program, because they want to experience the same change that they saw happened to this person whom they knew very well. There was a second part to your question, Davide. What's that?
Yeah. So the question was, how scary is the change that CPM prompts?
This is an intensely personal one. Some people find it very scary, because what happens is the mental models that you were always holding on to are some things that you now realize are not serving you well, and you let go of them, but you haven't yet been in a position where you have incorporated and anchored yourself in new mental models. So it seems as though you're stuck, it seems as though you're on a very slippery slope, and some people find that scary. Other people find it immensely comforting. You know, all the things that used to bother me are now slipping away, and something new will come up. So that is personal. Some people do feel scared. Many more people feel that it's a transition which they are comfortable with. I can't predict how you're going to find it. Can you be more specific about the content of the course? The content of the course is very simple. I'm going to introduce you to several concepts. Let me tell you the really important concept. The really important concept is that we do not live life in a real world. We all think we live life in a real world. We don't. The life that we live is a reality that we experience. It is not the reality. It is a reality. Now, this should actually be very comforting to you, because if you're stuck in a situation you don't like and it is the reality, you're screwed. But if what you're stuck in is a reality and not the reality, then that's wonderful, because you can deconstruct the parts of it that are not working and build it up again. And how you do it is what this program is all about. So there are exercises where, for example, I get you to examine what your mental models are. A mental model is a notion you have that this is the way the world works. We all have models. We've got dozens of models, maybe hundreds of models. You got a model for everything. You got a model for, how do I find a job? How do I get ahead in my job? How do I find a person to marry? How do I bring up my children? The problem is not that you have models. The problem is you don't recognize that you have models. You think this is the way the world works. But this is not the way the world works. This is your model of this is the way the world works. And as long as you believe and invest in the model, that's how you experience the world. You can actually change the way the models that you hold, and how you change the models that you hold. That's what the entire program is about. But as you do that, you'll find you become a different person. As you become a different person, the world treats you differently. That is really what CPM is all about. Now, let me see. Which traditions influence the course, and is it very practical or theoretical or both? The traditions, it's easy. Basically, it's many, if not most, of the wisdom traditions of the world. I've had multiple members of every major wisdom tradition take my program, and they all said, I understand my tradition better as a result of having taken CPM. If you want to know more about this, I direct you to the manifesto, which I presume you have read. If not, it's on my website. And in that, there is a section called Life-Changing Books. And if you go to the Life-Changing Books section, you'll see what are the influences that have led to CPM. Okay, Elizabeth, let me turn that to you. There's a question on what are the dates of the program in Glen Cove Mansion. So would you answer that, please?
Yes. So the in-person course in New York, there are 3 weekends. They start Friday at 6 o'clock, so over dinner. So somebody asked if it's 9 days. So it's Friday evening, all day Saturday, and sort of 3/4 of a day on Sunday. We go from the morning until 3 or 4 in the afternoon. So the first module is September 14th that weekend. The second module is October 19th. And the third module is November 6th.
Correct. And I have a question of what is a wisdom tradition? A wisdom tradition basically is, I'm using it synonymously. Other people would call it religions. But religions spring from a culture, and in that culture, there is a tradition. So that's why we call it a wisdom tradition.
So Srikumar, a question that from the Stack Hive.
Yeah.
How intense is the interaction with all the other students?
Very intense. And once again, this is something that you can decide how you want to make it. Most people find that there are not too many opportunities in our life where we can talk about really important meaning of life type questions with other people who are also on a personal journey of growth. So the interactions are both intense and deeply, deeply, deeply satisfying.
I see we skipped a question by accident, I think. Here's one that says, can you share a bit about which traditions influence the course? And is it very practical or theoretical or both?
Or both. And the short answer is it is both practical and theoretical. I give enough of theory that you know why we're doing the things that we're doing. But I learned early on from the days when I was teaching in business schools that you cannot tell an MBA student at a top business school anything. And the only reason my course worked is because I say, hey, you don't have to believe anything I say. Why don't you just go try it out in your life and see if it works for you? And that's when we have people having personal breakthroughs, and they kind of go from being skeptical to being believers to sometimes being evangelicals. Because it really does work. It works in spades, and it works in your life. I state in the manifesto that if this program doesn't profoundly change your life, we both failed. And I really mean that. If it doesn't profoundly change your life, we have both failed.
Another question that it looks like we skipped by accident asks, how much time does one need to spend on the assignments per day or per week?
Okay, CPM, both the online version and the live version, are different from any other program that you're going to take, and they're different in the following manner. It's not a question of you decide, do I want to do the CPM exercises or do I want to do what I regularly do? The CPM exercises are designed so that you do them while you do what you regularly do. So for example, if you're a salesman making a sales call, you're making a sales call, but as you're making the sales call, you're also observing yourself and your prospect. What is the mental chatter going on in my head? Am I anxious to close the sale? Or am I doing something which is designed to help the customer meet his or her needs? So as you're doing what you're normally doing, you're also doing the CPM exercises. So this is why I've had really busy people, including CEOs of billion-pound corporations and more, who said, I got more accomplished because I was in CPM than I would have if I had not taken it. So that being said, if you're talking in terms of how much time do you have to devote actually to doing the CPM exercises, the writing, the meetings, and so on, you will have group meetings, and those group meetings will probably take anywhere from 60 to 70 minutes, and you will have to write up on those and do your report. So I would say it's probably safe to say between 3 and 4 hours a week. Sometimes less, sometimes more, but that's a good average. Elizabeth, would you like to add to that?
I think you said it very well. I mean, I think it really differs from person to person. And the most of the way that you implement the exercises is, as you said, concurrent with all the other activities of your life. You don't separate it out as special CPM time.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Someone asked here if we have the dates yet for 2019, and the answer there is we're working on it, and that should be published soon.
Any other questions, Davide?
Yeah, can I actually add one thing to, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can I add one thing to what you guys just said about the exercises, etc.? Just to, because I'm very passionate about this, because I think it's one of the unique strengths of CPM, is that it's exactly through the exercises that the change that you want to bring about happens. Because and when we talk about theory or practice of CPM, so when you watch a TED talk or when you read an inspirational book, basically you're reading or watching the theory. And there's, of course, some theory at CPM as well. But then what is really unique about the course is the exercises that help you and guide you into applying the theory into your own life as you live your everyday life. And in both in the online course, whether in the online course or the in-person course, then you're immersed into these exercises, into these topics for like 3 months. And that is a long time and it's a sufficient time to bring about the change, and it's a lasting change. Why are you smiling?
I'd like to add to that. So, because just to circle back to the question about giving a concrete example about the material in the course and about the interaction with the other participants. So I'm going to just describe one of my favorite exercise in the course, and one of the most powerful ones is called alternate reality. So just like with all the other exercises in the course, you start in a small group exercise with 3 other people. So we put you in groups of 4 usually, and you have the opportunity to talk to 3 friendly, concerned people about a situation in your life. And really talk about it and explain it, and they really deeply, completely listen to you. And that by itself has a power that is hard to describe. How many times in your life do you have a chance to have 3 people attend to a situation in your life? And after they listen to you, you brainstorm with them about different ways you can think about it. And that's the launch of the exercise. And then you have considerable time in the course to practice seeing that situation in different ways as you're living it. So you weave the insight that you gained in the group into your life, into the actual way you live your life. And then comes the time when the exercise is due, and you reflect on it and write a reflection to the whole group about what happened in your life. And that in itself also has great value, to reflect and put it into writing and distill it and consolidate it that way. You send it out to the group, and then the group responds. And that's, again, a learning experience. And then everybody else in the group has done the same thing for their situation, and you read how they've been able to see things differently. So your learning is multiplied by 16 or 20 or however many people are in your course. That's just an example of one exercise. So should we go on to our next question?
Oh, you have another? Sure. I have Gilzana back.
What will happen to my relationships if I transform as a person? Will I no longer be the same person to my husband?
That is an extraordinarily perceptive question. Let me say that there are lots of people who have taken CPM and lots of couples who have taken CPM, including together and one after the other. In the vast majority of those instances, the persons report that, yes, our relationship is better than it's ever been. In fact, in the program we just ended in New York, there were 3 couples, and I've heard from all 3 that they felt that their marriage was stronger as a result of having taken CPM. That being said, I also have a coaching client right now who is dealing with a situation where she is growing and her partner is not, and that has been leading to some fissures in the relationship. So that could happen. And when that happens, it's a sign for you to treat the situation with a great deal of compassion for the other person. And the fact that you're facing something like that is itself a vehicle for your growth, but sometimes it could happen. I can't predict what's going to happen in your personal situation, but you should be aware that sometimes when you grow in a particular manner, and you find that your partner, for whatever reason, is disinclined to and not capable of understanding that you are undergoing a transformation, then yes, there could be friction, and how you deal with that is something that you will get a great deal of help with from the program. But what will happen to the relationship is something that's one of those mysteries which will be revealed as you go through it. But that is an excellent question, and thank you for asking. Who asked that question, Elizabeth?
Deborah.
Oh, wonderful. It's a very good question.
And how far can we use CPM with regards to taking care of our children? Is it applicable to the parent-child relationship?
Absolutely. Big time applicable to the parent-child relationship. And in fact, since many of the people who've taken CPM during business school days are now in the stage where they are having children and their children are growing up, I can't tell you how many times I've heard from them, both in terms of what should I do, and Professor Rao, thank you, these are really working in spades.
Can you tell us about the readings, the required readings?
There are 7 books which are required readings, and it is recommended that you do all of them before you begin the program, but don't beat yourself up if you can't. All of these books will basically present, except one, the one is the Cracking Creativity book. I'll tell you about that separately. The other 6 books basically are designed to get you thinking about life in a manner that you probably wouldn't have otherwise. 5 of them are nonfiction. One of them is a fiction book, Leave It to Smith by P.G. Woodhouse. And that's one of the funniest books you're ever going to read in your life. And all of those 6 books, as I said, will give you a different perspective on life. So think of it as if your brain has been rusted because it's got together as a result of growing up. This will shake the rust off and is a wonderful precursor to CPM. Cracking Creativity addresses the creativity in the Creativity and Personal Mastery title, and is a set of very creative techniques that you can use for practically any situation. The idea is that I have a somewhat different take on creativity, and my take on creativity is that when you are genuinely concerned about what you're doing, not hung up on the outcome, but you care for the activities and the outcome that you would like, then you become naturally creative. And when you become naturally creative, the techniques that are listed in Cracking Creativity could help you.
Let's say that you do CPM and it makes you realize that the way you go about your work and your work itself doesn't align with your developed values. And how far will the program set you up for a career change? It's a frightening prospect for many of us.
Yeah. Career change is a frightening prospect for many of us, and it is neither necessary nor sufficient. In some cases, you may feel, hey, you're going to go there naturally. In other cases, you may absolutely be terrified. A lot of the times people tell me, I want to have purpose in my life, and I'm not finding it. The point is, purpose isn't something you go out and find. Purpose finds you. Just as people say, I'm not passionate about what I do, Professor Rao, if I could really be doing something like yours, I would be passionate. Like you do, I would be passionate about it. Wrong. Passion does not exist in the job, it exists in you. And unless you can ignite it within yourself right where you are, you can't find it yourself. But as you start igniting it within yourself right where you are, you will find that there are innumerable ways in which you can bring that passion into whatever it is you are currently doing. And as you're doing it, you transform, the job you're doing is transformed, and somehow there is a dance and a marriage which leads you to some place you would never, ever have expected. So don't be scared about it. You're embarking upon a journey where you have more meaning in your life, where you come more radiantly alive every day. So it's something to celebrate, not be frightened about. And CPM, by the way, will not reveal the end of the road, but it sure will help you decide, here is the next step. A lot of the times, the problems in our life arise because we want to know what's going to happen tomorrow and the day after and the day after. You don't really need to know that. All you need to know is, what is the next step that I have to take?
Some of my questions are very personal. I'm not sure I'd be comfortable sharing my dilemmas with strangers.
You don't have to share your dilemmas with strangers. You can share as much or as little as you feel comfortable about. But here's something you should be aware of. I've had numerous instances of persons saying, Professor Rao, I wish I had not held back. I wish I had not held back in my personal essay. I wish I had not held back in the meetings, because everybody was so open. And I now recognize that I would probably have gotten a great deal more out of the program if I hadn't held things so closely to myself. But it's entirely up to you how much you want to share. Any other questions? No?
Let's give a moment. I think there are a few people who are here but haven't asked questions yet.
And they're busy absorbing what they are hearing.
What happens if CPM conflicts with my religion?
Again, a very, very interesting question. Let me say that I've had multiple people from all of the world's major religions take CPM, and they all felt that they understood things and they understood their tradition better than if they hadn't taken it. But there are persons who are very firmly wedded to their exact interpretation of their religion. In other words, this is the way it is and no others. So if you're dogmatic about it and you don't have an open mind, then probably CPM is not right for you. The easiest way for you to gauge where you are is to read the manifesto. And if you read the manifesto and it resonates with you, then you absolutely should take it. But if you read the manifesto and find that it makes you uncomfortable and it conflicts with what you have been told in your religious tradition, probably not right for you.
What is this manifesto of which you speak?
The manifesto actually is a series of observations on various aspects of life. And it's on my website. Formerly, the manifesto and the reading list were combined into something that I call the syllabus. And it was split apart, and I'm seriously thinking maybe they should be joined together again. In any case, I'm in the process of revising it, and the revised manifesto will be there. But in terms of spirit, the old manifesto is very much there, and it's on my website. And have you had observant Jews with a Shabbat practice come to the live training? Oh, absolutely, absolutely. In fact, many of them. In fact, what happens is that a couple of observant Jews who took the program then set themselves up to be the mentors for other observant Jews who wanted to, and they had all kinds of tips, like, why don't you get to that place before sundown so, you don't run into that travel restriction, and they advise in terms of what food you can eat and what you can or can't do, and so on. So yes, I've had many observant Jews for the Shabbat practice come and take the live CPM programs.
What happens if you have to miss a day or a weekend of the live program?
If something comes up and you have to miss a day or a weekend, we can probably work around that for you. And Elizabeth, Davide, and I are all present, and we'll help you make up the material. And this, in fact, has happened sometimes. In general, if you know you will have to miss a weekend, probably better for you to wait and take it the next time it's offered. But if you've signed up and you do miss a weekend, we can help you make up. It's just that if that happens, you have to be extra careful to make sure that you don't miss out on the exercises and do all of the exercises religiously in between.
If I can add something here, what we did when someone missed module 2 in the class now in London in the spring, I actually met with them individually and went through all the notes of module 2. So that they were at least updated on the topics, the language, and that we had been using, what the conversation had been about, and they could watch all the videos that we used in class in support of the concept, etc. So we do that to update everyone that hasn't been able to attend one module.
What happens in the alumni?
Hopefully put the link to the manifesto in the chat box. Thank you, Michael.
And what happens in the alumni community besides these annual retreats?
There are lots of smaller get-togethers that are organized, and increasingly these are happening all over the world. I'm not aware of any of them myself, but they're all on the listserv. We have a Google Groups that we're currently using, and there are meetings that are being held quite literally all over the world.
I'd like to add about the Google group. So there are over 1,000 alumni who are connected on this Google group. And once you join it, you can send an email to 1,000 people at the press of a button. And they're all people who have taken the course and who share this common vocabulary and common understanding. And people, sometimes it's very quiet. Weeks will go by when nobody emails, but then somebody will raise a question and you might have a very thought-provoking conversation, or you might have somebody reaching out for help with many helpful answers. So for example, during the 3 modules, often we don't deal very deeply with the issue of grief. And this year somebody brought that up on the listserv, and we had a host of replies from all over the world about how apply to a deep struggle with grief. Another time somebody just, had a daughter having to go through a sudden career change because of a physical injury, and offers came in from all over to set her up with new professional opportunities. So that's a tremendous resource that you become part of when you're an alum. And also there's a book group. There are about 80 people in the book group, and they're basically people continuing their CPM learning, taking books from Professor Rao's reading list, reading them chapter by chapter, and sharing their observations and how the concepts in the books apply in their lives. Anything else we want to say about the alumni community?
It's a very rich community, and I'm just discovering myself how rich it is. Rich in terms of the diversity of experience and so on. There are people who took the program 12, 15 years ago, and I haven't been in touch with them, and all of a sudden they pop up and want to be re-involved in the community and tell me how much it's helped them and how much they still carry the teachings around. I just got an email today, as a matter of fact, from someone who took it about 4 years ago, and she has had a career change since then, says, Jay, I'd like to come back and take it again. So there are people who are involved. They see the continuing value of this. They see the continuing value of having a community that they can plug into at any time. The one thing you should know about that is if you attend a retreat and you come in and you're nervous because you don't know a soul there, and I've had this happen hundreds of times, and persons say, you know, within 10 minutes, I felt like, you know, I was in the middle of a group of 40 friends. Literally happens every time. This is so rare that you have to experience it to actually understand. And my telling you this will not have an impact. Just get together, and there are events, as I said, being organized, certainly in New York, London, and San Francisco. But if you just go in down there, you'll find what a difference there is. In fact, let me share a story that makes this clear. When you attend a top business school, you're generally arranged into a cohort. And members of the cohort get to know each other pretty damn well. At London Business School, there was a cohort, and within the cohort, there was a smaller group of people who were taking CPM. And even members of the cohort observed how close the reaction was between these people. They didn't have to say anything. They didn't have to talk to each other. Just by their very presence together, they could observe that there was a chemistry. In fact, one person even started calling it the buzz group. He said every time you pass two people have taken CPM, there's a buzz that goes on. Buzz, buzz, buzz. So he called it the buzz group. It really happens. And once again, I can only tell you about it. You have to experience it to know how powerful this is. I have seen this happen for sure on the live programs. The online program, not quite so sure.
Is CPM a cult?
Oh boy, the number of times that I have run into it. In fact, I went out of my way to discourage talks of cult in business schools because many, many people did refer to it as a cult. The short answer is absolutely no. And I'll tell you how it's different. CPM is similar to a cult in the sense that there are people who believe very, very, very strongly in it and want to spread the word. In every other respect, it's different from a cult. You're not told that there is a person or a body of teachings which is it, and you have to believe that. You're not encouraged to only stick together and not talk to other persons. You're not encouraged to keep things secret. In fact, my general philosophy is, by all means, go and share with whoever you want. Just be discreet and careful in terms of how you share it, but by all means do. And don't believe anything that I or anybody else says. Try it and find out, does it work for you in your life now? And only if it works for you in your life now should you accept it, which is the exact opposite of what a cult advises. So except for the fact that people really feel that connected and they want to spread the word, except for that, it's different in any way you can think of from a cult.
I just want to add that Professor Rao often says that you are the scientist and you are also the laboratory, and encourages people to approach the exercises that way, to experiment and see what works and what doesn't.
If there are no other questions,
No. Well, in that case, what I would like to say is it's been a wonderful experience for me talking to you. I think that the questions you asked were really good, and I thank you for that. And I'm sure after we hang up, more questions will pop up. And if they do, please email Davide, email Elizabeth, email me. And if you have any questions, we'll be very happy to answer them. And having said that, I am very much looking forward to seeing you either in the live or the online program or both. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. So the last thing I want to add is that we have recorded this webinar, and I will be sending the link to everyone as soon as we upload it on YouTube.
Good night. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye.